Hey, what's up everybody? It's Lids, and we're back for some more Gwent, and today we're playing more of the +1 seasonal event, which is an alternate game mode in which every time we play a unit, we will also spawn in a 1-power copy of that unit in the same row. Today we are using an alternate version of a deck that we used previously, because it got a few buffs. So let's go give it a look. So today we'll be playing a Syndicate Congregate Firesworn deck that is fairly simple because the focus is basically to spawn in as many units as possible and get coins and get points every time we do so. And obviously in +1, where you automatically get units spawned in every time you play a unit, that really helps. So the key cards here are primarily going to be our Fallen Knights, because those will get boosted every time we spawn in a unit, and again, every time we play a unit, you're going to spawn in additional copies, so that makes it really easy to boost these guys. That's your primary, your ideal point scoring engine. Eternal Fire Priest is basically a slightly weaker version of it because the Fallen Knights also have it Intimidate, which means they'll get boosted whenever you play a crime. We have 1 or 2 crimes in this deck, so they'll get a little bit more boostage, whereas the Eternal Fire Priest, they still get boosted whenever you spawn in a unit, so they're still quite effective. Then that's the primary way you're scoring points. However, for coin generation, you have the Firesworn Scribe. Row lock to the range row, so make sure you're playing them there. They'll give you coins every time you spawn in a unit, and again, because it's so easy to spawn units in this event, gives you a great source of coin generation. And then, other than that, you actually, you can just spawn in all your units by playing units, but we'd like to have ways to spawn even more units than what we're getting from +1, and our best ways to do that are with Helveed, who, by spending 2 coins, can spawn in a 2-power Firesworn Zealot. So if we have a lot of coins, and if we have a whole lot of the Firesworn Scribes on the board, then we can actually sustain this and just basically fill an entire row with Firesworn Zealots. Be a little bit careful, of course, because since this deck focuses on flooding in as many units as possible, it is very, very easy to accidentally fill your entire row and prevent yourself from playing a unit in a given row, or potentially playing any unit in any row at all, if you fill both entirely. So we do have additional unit spawning with Lieutenant von Herst. So it's similar to Helveed in this way. Make sure you have a cleric on the board, and the scribe is a cleric, and so that's one of the best ways to set that up. Then, other than that, we have Ulrich is basically just a way to get another copy of one of those powerful bronze cards on the board, because the Scribes and the Fallen Knights are absolutely the cornerstones of this deck, and this just means you get more of them on the board. Then you can spawn in additional copies of them with Igor. Pretty expensive at 5 coins, but if you have some Firesworn Scribes, then it's absolutely still feasible. In fact, if you happen to have 5 or more Firesworn Scribes, then you could actually sustain it indefinitely. You can only do it once per turn with Igor because he has a cooldown, but you technically are getting 2 Igors when you play him because of +1, so you can indefinitely just continue to spawn additional Firesworn Scribes, which is an option. Not as good for point generation, because that is, of course, there for the coins, but if you have something like Townsfolk on the board, then this suddenly becomes a powerful engine, right up there with the Fallen Knight. Although Fallen Knight is definitely easier to set up, since the primary focus of this deck is spawning the units, and the coin generation is kind of an aside. A necessary component, of course, as Syndicate, but speaking of both spawning and coin generation, Roderick gives a little bit of both of those things, so not as good as something like the Firesworn Scribes in all likelihood, because we may be spawning multiple units in a turn, and Roderick at most is giving us 1 coin per Roderick. Obviously, again, we'll get 2 Rodericks when we play him because of +1. But if the coin generation is not terribly of interest to you, you can just spawn in the Flaming Rose Footman to give you additional spawning. Other than that, we have Cyrus, Hemmelfart, who is probably best for round 2 or round 3. What you do with him is you play him ideally in the range row, because then you use the Congregation in that range row. You spawn in 3 Firesworn Zealots, and you can convert those Firesworn Zealots into bronze units that you have in your graveyard. And so basically, you play a bunch of the Firesworn Scribes, you play a bunch of the Fallen Knights, maybe Eternal Fire Priests in round 1. Then you use Hemmelfart in round 2 or round 3, and you convert the Zealots into those more powerful bronze engines, and then you're good to go with all the big cards in round 2 or round 3 once again. So that's really useful to give you some solid resilience, and you can play really aggressively in round 1 and still be able to play aggressively in round 2 or round 3 this way. Then, other than that, we also have Necromancy, which is very similar. Basically, Hemmelfart is like a body with the Congregation and Necromancy all built into one. And bear in mind that because the Fallen Knights have Veil, Necromancy normally would give units doomed, meaning that once you bring them out from your graveyard, you can't use the something else to get them back out into their graveyard, from the graveyard onto the board in round 3. Not the case with Fallen Knights, though, because the Veil prevents them from getting doomed, so you could, for example, play Fallen Knight round 1, get it back on the board with Necromancy in round 2, and then get it back onto the board again in round 3 with Hemmelfart. That still works. Then, lastly, let's talk about what starts to happen once you do start to run out of space. Ideally, just before you're going to run out of board space, you might want to consider putting down a Sea Jackal, because this gives you a way to spend whatever coins you have remaining and still translate those coins into points, whereas otherwise, most of our other coin spenders spawn in units, and if we're out of room, then can't really do anything with that. So that's an option. Alternatively, we can also use Lonely Champion, who can basically, what is the Syndicate version of consume all of our Firesworn tokens. So if we have, for example, a whole bunch of the Firesworn Zealots from using Helveed or from using Von Herst, you can absorb them all into the Lonely Champion, giving you some space to then play additional units. However, this does take a little bit of proactivity, because once a row is full, you obviously can't play the Lonely Champion there anymore. So you need to make sure you have at least one spot available to squeeze this in, and then you can obviously use its order ability. And then, somewhat similarly, we have Line of Credit, which you can use to destroy one of your units to give yourself some more space and get some coins in return. And so once again, you're probably looking to destroy a Firesworn Zealot, because it's likely to be your least valuable card out there. If you happen to have a 1-power +1 version of a non-engine, like, say, maybe... I mean, Ulrich technically is an engine because it has Intimidate, but we don't have a ton of crime, so if you have 1-power Ulrich, you could also use it on him. Something along those lines, just to give yourself a little bit more space, and some coins, which obviously you can spend to do whatever else you need to do. And also, once you are totally out of space, you've completely filled your rows, or you have played all of your units, you can use Bone Talisman as a big finisher, because you're going to have a lot of units, so it's going to be worth a lot of points. And same idea with Desiree, which gives you a little bit of damage, and just about all of our cards are Firesworn. Not all of them, so the Death Blow is not crucially important, but you might get 1 or 2 extra points if you can get that. A little bit of damage, but other than that, it's basically also a Bone Talisman, and it has Echo, so you'll get it in the next round as well. So that's a look at the deck, and like I said, it is all about spawning in units and doing everything from generating points and generating coins when you do that. And quick little note, because we spawn in a crazy number of units, generally what we'd like to do is have a long round 1, in which we might fill our rows entirely, and so having a Bone Talisman or a Desiree on hand could be useful to finish off the round. But then, a full-length round 3 in which you're actually playing all 10 cards tends not to go great for us, because even with, I mean, you may not run out of space, or may not run out of cards to play, if you have Desiree and 2 Bone Talismans and, you know, other things that don't take up a whole bunch of space. But if you have all of your unit spawners and all of your engines in round 3 and it's a full-length round 3, you might not have enough room. So for that reason, you might want to push a little bit in round 2, even if you wouldn't necessarily want to go all the way for going for a 2-0 win. Might just be worth it to reduce the length of round 3, make it so that you're less likely to run out of space, because you can fill both rows very quickly if you'd like to in round 3. So that's just my general tip for how to play this deck, but let's go see it in action. Alright, so going up against Skellige here, And we'll go first. Okay, so there are two things we want to focus on doing. One of them is to generate our point scoring engines like Fallen Knight, ideally, and as a backup plan, the Eternal Fire Priest. We actually have 2 Fallen Knights, that's awesome. Alternatively, / in addition to that, we want to make sure we're also generating coins if possible. We have a little bit of that with Roderick, but we might be able to do a little bit better. And I think without much coin generation at the moment, Townsfolk is probably not the best option for us. We could get another Fallen Knight with you, so I mean, that's not a bad option. So, still really looking for... Yes, the Firesworn Scribe. Perfect. That is our best coin generator. We do have our stratagem for 5 coins, so it's not quite as urgent as it might otherwise be, and for that reason, we probably will begin with the Fallen Knight. Let's go there. And I do imagine, with Patricidal Fury, this is probably a Sahil deck that we're going against right now. There's the confirmation. Okay, Drummond Berserker is a very solid point slam, because the 1-power one immediately converts, and then the other one will give them a little bit of damage. So, fortunately for us, we of course have way more Fallen Knights where the first one came from, so we can replace the one that they destroyed with another Fallen Knight right here. Fallen Knight is not a cleric, which means the Lieutenant von Herst does not yet have his super Firesworn Zealot generation power set up just yet, whereas the Scribe is. So that could potentially be reason to go with Scribe next, but let's go with the Fallen Knight now. And I'm going to try to leave one of the rows pretty open in case we do want to go with Lieutenant von Herst in this round. This is, of course, one of our best ways to set up these Fallen Knights. Otherwise, next best, or perhaps even better, would be Helveed, who we do not currently have in hand. Okay, Sahil is, of course, going to continue to plague us a bit, getting rid of our 1-power cards. And yeah, they have a bunch of the cards that heal themselves up or transform into higher power units when they get damaged, which is what we're seeing here. Which is good for point slams, but theoretically long-term we may be in better shape than they are. So let's go with the Firesworn Scribe now, I think. Does need to be in the range row. And we could spend coins to boost it up, but this is just going to be the initial one that gets boosted, whereas this is the one that's vulnerable and is at risk of getting destroyed. So now we could go Von Herst if we'd like, but because we have these guys, we're going to automatically generate coins every time we play a card, in addition to, from these Fallen Knights, automatically generate points every time we play a card, because of course we're automatically spawning cards every time we play a unit. Okay, Doo-Doo. Oh, to transform into a Fallen Knight. That's not a bad idea. Not a bad idea at all, really. Okay. That is interesting. And for what it's worth, we could use Necromancy to get one of the Fallen Knights out from our graveyard. We might want to save that for a future round. This could also give us another Fallen Knight, potentially, depending on what we're looking to convert. So, not too worried about them having destroyed some of ours before. And I am more concerned about... Not really sure we have a great way to shut that down unless we reach for Desiree, which would be kind of early to do. We'd have to use Vivaldi Bank to make that possible. We do have a lot of coins, so it is an option. Tell you what, we'll try. Where is it? It is... No... Oh, no, it's over here. Okay. It's pretty far down our deck, so it's going to cost us a fair number of coins, but we'll do it to at least get rid of one of their Fallen Knights. So obviously, the damage wasn't great because there's a 1-power unit that we targeted. We don't have a lot of units on the board, so it wasn't a huge boost. The reason why we did it was because that Fallen Knight was going to get huge if we didn't immediately deal with it. So we want to make sure that we are significantly outnumbering them when it comes to Fallen Knights. Otherwise, we could be in trouble. So that was the reason why we went out of our way to do it early and aggressively. So, I'm thinking what we might need to do here, because we are looking at a bit of a deficit right now, is, I mean, it's not urgent just yet, but we could go with Eternal Fire Priest, which is basically like a weaker version of the Fallen Knight. Could use them, get a little bit of coins in the process, get more points from the Fallen Knights, and consider using a leader ability charge or two. Get these guys boosted more quickly. And are we in need of the coins here? Not so much. At this point, we probably do want to save Von Herst, because otherwise he's not going to have that much time to get the full benefit out of his ability. So, to tell you the truth, we go here and at least get that one to proc. The Sahil that they have is quite powerful at this point. I don't remember exactly how much damage it's up to at the moment, but they could remove one of our bigger cards if they'd like. I mostly wanted to do that, yes, to give ourselves more boosts. It's 4, so they're probably going to go after the Scribe. They should go after the Scribe. So we got a little more value out of the Scribe. Oh, okay, the Lacerate, actually. That really hurts, because the other reason why I really wanted to use our leader ability in that turn was so that we had a solid target for either Line of Credit or Damnation to create more Fallen Knights, whereas at this rate, if we were to do this, we'd get an 8 provision Firesworn card, which actually would mean we could get Lieutenant Von Herst for what it's worth. But this is a powerful card that we don't really want to be destroying at this stage. So it might mean we go Necromancy here to grab a Fallen Knight from our graveyard. That might be what we go for here. Was hoping we'd save this, but we do theoretically still have additional ways to get more Fallen Knights. Obviously, if we had anticipated that we were going to do that, then we would have liked to have made a point of doing it earlier, so we'd have more time for these Fallen Knights to get bigger. Deliberately used one more leader ability charge there, because now their Sahil is on 5 power, so if we didn't do it, they would have immediately removed either this Fallen Knight or this Eternal Fire Priest, which, obviously, we don't want them to do, so using one leader ability charge kept it out of removal range. But at this point, I guess, we're probably looking at Damnation on this Eternal Fire Zealot, or rather, Firesworn Zealot, or Line of Credit on it, but we don't really need the coins right now, so they're going to give us this round 1 win, which works well for us timing-wise, so we're starting to get a little bit awkward with cards that we'd like to save. So we know we're going to get that Desiree, because we played the first one in round 1 there. Helveed, arguably our best source of creating additional Zealots. And we also have Von Herst. That's a lot of Zealots. So Line of Credit to get rid of some of them is useful. I think we might want to dump the Townsfolk and ideally find another way to dump some of those Zealots, because it's going to be a lot. Royal Decree, we could, if absolutely necessary, use to get a Lonely Champion, which is perhaps our best way of removing the Zealots. So I think we probably stick with this. We're probably looking to Dry Pass as well, as we have won round 1. We played one more card than our opponent in round 1, so we could try to bleed, and we certainly can put up a lot of points very quickly. But, well, to tell you the truth, we may actually opt to do that, because as we were just saying, we are going to take up a ton of space with the combination of Von Herst and Helveed. So if we can make round 3 a little bit shorter, so we don't run out of space while we still have a bunch of cards remaining in our hand, that may be useful to us. So what if we go with Roderick here? And at the very least, what this will do is it'll give us the ability to generate some more coins, so that we are ready to go with our spenders more quickly in round 3. They are going to use Sahil, though. It does give them the chance to, well, continue to build up on the Sahil power. It's going to happen pretty much no matter what, though, I'm afraid. It will destroy Roderick as well, so he was mostly meant as a little bit of a throwaway. It is unfortunate to see he went down immediately, though, because that does mean that, pacing-wise, this bleed attempt that we are putting on here is going to become a little more awkward. What if we went, this would be a huge commitment, but what if we went Royal Decree into Hemmelfart, even? And this would be our best way to get our Fallen Knights out from our graveyard. We should probably do that for round 3, unless we are truly pushing for the 2-0 victory here. Von Herst They can remove with Sahil, one of them, but not the second one. What if we did it? What if we use him? Is he slower than Helveed? So I think we prefer saving Helveed for... I mean, you could make the case that that makes Helveed a better use for round 2 when we're just trying to get a bunch... Oh, no, you didn't. I'm disgusted, first of all. With Skellige? Really? Guys, don't stoop to the level of Idarran. We would love a lacerate right about now, but we actually don't have a in this deck, because we're focusing on boosting ourselves when things get crowded, rather than damaging our opponent when things get crowded. So, I think what we do here is, I mean, we could, theoretically, do something to get more of those Fallen Knights out from our graveyard, or convert Lieutenant von Herst into something with Damnation that gives us, well, yeah, actually, truth be told, we don't have any clerics right now, so we would need to do something to make a cleric for that to work. So what we'll do here, I will hold the tribute, I think. Now that does set up von Herst, which sets up a bunch of coin generation, so if we want to go absolutely crazy with Helveed, we could. Ah, okay, now I see. They're damaging with the Brockvar Hunters to create space for, yep, Snowdrop plus Idarran. It's not as effective as Scoia'tael Guerrilla Tactics is, not by any means, but what we are doing here is by forcing them to play Idarran and Snowdrop as well, we have absolutely bled out their biggest cards here, or at least the key cards that they were hoping to play. So I'm glad we are not getting this nasty surprise in round 3. And for Scoia'tael Guerrilla Tactics, Idarran plus Snowdrop, oftentimes they will use things like Decoy and or Renew to replay this combo, but I don't know if that's going to be the case for Skellige here, because this is significantly less common. But if they don't have a way to replay this, then of course, that's really useful for them to have, for them to have gotten rid of their big combo in round 2. So the bleed attempt was successful in that way, and perhaps seeing von Herst made them think that we were going all in on this round. But I think, obviously, they're going to outscore us here in this round, even if we continue to play. So we're definitely going to pass here. If they do want/need to replay this combo, then they are going to want to play additional cards to put Idarran back into their deck with Decoy. Yep, that's exactly what they're doing, so we are going to see this again in round 3. Okay. It does mean that we will be on even cards, but they do still have the means to replay that combo in all likelihood. Okay, let's see. Do we have a good card to set up with Ulrich? I mean, right now, the only thing we could do with it would be Lonely Champion, but that's not really what we're looking for here. If we are going to spawn a bunch of the Zealots with Helveed, then that is still perhaps useful. Royal Decree, I mean, we can't set that up with Ulrich, but that could be a way to get Hemmelfart. Line of Credit, when we have Lonely Champion, is not quite as necessary. So I think we might dump this. Okay, there is Hemmelfart, in which case, what is Royal Decree going to be to get? Maybe Igor. Create additional Fallen Knights, which we will get via Hemmelfart. I still don't love this, though. That's unfortunate. I mean, I suppose maybe we will need 2 Lonely Champions. It's possible, but very unlikely, I think. Okay, so the Flaminica is here to heal the Idarrans that they're going to end up playing. The 1-power ones that are going to get spawned in. So, also not a... This only gets rid of, yeah, Firesworn tokens. It'd be really nice if it got rid of the Deafening Sirens, because those are taking up very valuable board space right now. So, with Hemmelfart, is it purely the Fallen Knights we're going for? Or do we have any interest in Firesworn Scribes as well? Do we need the coins should probably at least give ourselves that option. The reason why I say that is because the Firesworn Scribes do need to be in the range row, and our range row is obviously now pretty crowded. So that's where this is less than ideal. We might need to go melee row for that reason, to tell you the truth. I think we may. So obviously that means we are definitely going Fallen Knight, because the scribes do not work in that row, and we might need to do this as well, just to give ourselves a little more of a boost on those Fallen Knights, because we have seen with the Sahil, they do have a lot of damage. I imagine they're planning to go Idarran next, but still. No, it's Yennefer Conjurer. For solid damage. And of course the healing, as we were saying. We can still replace Zealots with other cards, I mean, technically speaking. Technically speaking. We can do that. And so we should. And if we do this, we can grab another Fallen Knight. And then we might be looking at Helveed. I think we're probably looking at Helveed. Now that we have technically not infinite coin generation, because it costs us 2 to spawn in a unit. And we're only getting 1 back. But I think that is still worth doing here. Actually, we arguably should not have spawned in that last Zealot, because Hemmelfart cannot replace a Zealot when a row is entirely full. And that also means no space for the Lonely Champion, which may have been relevant. Okay, Olaf. You should use the first one as soon as possible, because in fact, that healing is making it less effective. So here's the thing, with Hemmelfart, we can remove a Firesworn Zealot, but anything that we try to replace it with is just going to get bricked. It doesn't work when the row is full, or at least unless they patched that recently. Maybe they did. Otherwise, Royal Decree into, I mean, Igor could give us additional copies of these key cards. Townsfolk is not a terrible idea at this stage. And Disarray, we'd prefer to wait, but it could be something to get rid of Olaf. I think we go here. We'll see if we can get a Scribe, but yeah, it doesn't work. So now what we do is we go Royal Decree, and we go for Igor. Put him down here. And he has... Oh, actually, no, don't do this yet. Don't run into the same issue we ran into last time. Now that we have the coins on our next turn, we can replace one of these with a card that we actually want, another one of the Scribes. And then we can use Igor to create another Fallen Knight, and we can use his Insanity. We cannot use his Insanity anymore, actually. It's actually very helpful that they got rid of all those cards in the range row, because we were in need of some additional space, so that is incredibly helpful, really. Now we can do this. And at this rate, should probably proactively play the Lonely Champion here. It'll give us a little bit of coins, which means we can now, I believe, infinitely sustain this, because we have 2 Firesworn Scribes here. Let's be careful, because we may want to first do this to get another Scribe, maybe? Or Fallen Knight? Let's go Fallen Knight. We have a lot of Scribes. And we can absorb this Zealot, but I think we'll wait. So we might look to convert that. Oh, actually, we bricked Ulrich, come to think of it. But as we were saying, I mean, it was going to be Ulrich into Lonely Champion, and here's the thing, we now have basically no space. Which is one of the reasons why the Deafening Siren, I mean, At this point, there's only one remaining, but it is a bit of a factor. Sahil is 6. Again, we are low on space, so we actually kind of like that. To be honest, we're in need of coins more than anything else here. Desiree does not have the death blow. Not that it matters too much, because most of our cards are Firesworn. So... Ulrich Melee Row gives us additional coins, because it will spawn in a second copy, even if he's not all that useful to us. That gives us enough coins to then replace this Zealot with something else. So let's do that. And what do we want to replace it with? Do you have another Fallen Knight? So the answer is probably a Fallen Knight. So we are probably out of coin generation at this stage. This Yennefer's are, damage is stacking up here. Elf and Onion Soup has... They're low on space in their range row. Get rid of the healing, because all their cards are already healed up. Only 3 power, as Squirtle did not have time to trigger his veteran ability. I mean, again, if you want to destroy a unit, that's actually extremely helpful. Okay, so right now, I think we're probably looking at Desiree, and we actually do have a solid target for the death blow. So let's go for you. And, of course, our finisher is Bone Talisman, which, because we have a whole bunch of units on the board, is also worth a lot of points. That Yennefer, double Yennefer, is still a pretty big factor. Fortunately, actually, this armor on the Lonely Champion might have been an important factor on that. Yrden. We actually don't have a ton of boosts. Yeah, they actually need to Yrden themselves because they started dealing a bunch of damage, so Bone Talisman should be enough here, and we'll take the win. Alright, so going up against monsters here, and they'll go first. Okay, so we're looking for a nice combination of engines that get boosted whenever we spawn in additional units, and we have several of those with a couple of Fallen Knights, so that's great, as well as Eternal Fire Priest. We want cards that give us coins when we do that spawning, which we can get with the Firesworn Scribe. And then we want to actually be able to spawn those units, which is what we can do with Helveed. We'd perhaps like to have other ways to do that as well. Damnation can actually give us additional Fallen Knights too. Can spawn a bit with Igor. That works particularly well with the Firesworn Scribes if we're a little bit strapped for coins. We might actually not need the Eternal Fire Priest. Might prefer, yeah, Roderick giving us a little bit of a hybrid between coin generation and spawning. Might make up for the somewhat of a lack of spawning that we have here. We have Hemmelfart, who's amazing, but we'll probably wait to play him until round 3 to get back all of the Fallen Knights and Scribes that we're going to have. Okay, so they're starting off with the Wild Hunt Hounds. Obviously, they have dominance now, and they will have dominance perhaps for a while, since they put that stratagem on that Wild Hunt Hound too. But I don't think that changes much here. Oh, in fact, let's go Ulrich. Yeah. I guess we'll go... I mean, Ulrich technically gives us additional spawns, so there's something to be said for deliberately putting the Fallen Knight down, at least putting one of these Fallen Knights down first. And then, since we have another one in hand, maybe we use Ulrich to get this one out. She Who Knows. Huge point slam. And leader ability as well. A little odd that they chose to put that in the range row, because they didn't get the Sabbath in that case, but I suppose they're avoiding the complete row stacking. So now we could either go Ulrich into Fallen Knight, or we could even use a leader ability charge and then go Damnation to get Fallen Scribes that way. That also works. Technically, I think this has a little less spawning. Slightly less spawning. So we should do this first, and then Ulrich is worth slightly more points long term. And we'll use the Fall Knight. Might actually go melee row as well. We are row stacking a bit. But the Firesworn Scribes do need to be in the range row. And we still have Ulrich to create additional Fallen Knights as well. Okay, and Dragon Queen is going to eat the largest of the She Who Knows. That's it's a little bit surprising. A little bit surprising. Let's go Ulrich now into another Fallen Knight here. Then we'll go Firesworn Scribe. We've, of course, very much prioritized the engines over the coin generation. But, I mean, we have Roderick as well if we really want to go for that. So that kind of makes up for it a bit, and we just don't have too much of a need for the coin generation right now, because we're probably going to wait to play... we may or may not play Helveed in this round. We're not going to have a lot of space for him. So... now it is probably Firesworn Scribe time, though. And so now you could make more of a case for using additional leader ability charges. It's not necessary at this rate. Oh, I also totally forgot that we had Igor. Okay, Self-Eater. It's pretty late in the round to be doing that. But now we are probably looking to either go with Roderick and get a little more coin generation before spawning, or maybe even just going straight into the spawning. This does need to be melee row if we are going to keep that spawning option open to us. Just thinking about Helveed and Igor and when we want to squeeze them in. I think we're definitely saving Hemmelfart. Probably saving this Fall Knight at this rate as well for round 2 or round 3, because we have so many on the board already. So it's the spawning that we're really, unit spawning that we're really missing here, as things currently stand. And how exactly do we want to do that? I guess we go Roderick. A little bit of an in-between between unit spawning and coin generation. But it does set us up for maybe an Igor on our next turn. Because we don't really have the space to make Helveed super effective. I suppose same could be sort of said with Igor as well. We just went very, very crazy on the Fallen Knights. It's Necker. That is odd time to be playing that. But the Witch Apprentices will continue to get boosted here. And do they have dumbness? They do, don't they? Maybe that's why they consumed the... who knows? But... okay. Let's see, we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 units in every row. Means we play any unit in a row, and there's going to be 1 additional spot remaining. So not a lot of room to be spawning in additional cards here. In any case, whether that be Igor or Helveed. But maybe we go... this doesn't make a huge difference what we're spawning in that case, without much room remaining for the spawns. I guess we'll still go Fallen Knight. And then I'm thinking, next turn, if they don't pass us, or if they don't pass us, then we'll pass, of course, and take the round 1 win. If they do pass us, we'll use both Rodericks and then finish with Bone Talisman. They ran out of space. They will still get the boost there. So it's worth what? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 points at the end of their turn. It's just enough that they actually don't need to play anything else, and they can still pass us. They have already played 1 more card than us, but I think we might still be looking to go Roderick plus Bone Talisman for that reason, just to guarantee we get the round 1 win. Because I don't think they can catch us now. And it does also mean, since we're dropping below the 4-card threshold, that we're making round 2 or round 3 a little bit shorter, which tends to work best for us because otherwise we're going to run out of space, which is what they're having right now. So I think now we pass. And they are kind of stuck here. They obviously should not have just thrown away all those cards, but either way, we'll take the round 1 win. And because they consumed their big She Who Knows, their little She Who Knows is what's getting carried over here, which is not particularly helpful to them. I think we probably push here with our 3-card advantage, so don't really need line of credit. I don't think we're going to be too starved for board space here. I think we'll still be fine. Firesworn Scribe plus Fallen Knight is, of course, those are the key bronze engines. Sea Jackal can be a coin spender at the end of the round if we run out of space. Hemmelfart will be our probably first card that we play, although we could start with Fallen Knight, actually. Yeah. No, we've very strong setup here. Okay, we'll actually go Fallen Knight first, so that we get the boost from all the spawning when we play Cyrus on our next turn. Could even go Firesworn Scribes before we do Cyrus as well, for that same reason. The Apiarian Phantom. Technically, you can make a strong case for, yes, destroying that Fallen Knight. That's not a bad play. Going after the second one, maybe, makes a little less sense. But now I think it does still make sense to do this. And how badly do we need these coins? I actually don't think we... I mean, it'll help set up Sea Jackal, but I don't think we need to be worried too much about that, because with 2 Firesworn Scribes, we can sustain an entire row's worth of Firesworn Zealot spawning with Helveed. And if we get one of these destroyed, then we're about to play Hemmelfart, so we should still be able to get another one on the board anyway. Yeah, because they'll use their other Apiarian Phantom to get rid of that. Again, not a huge issue. Sayer Quan. But if we had... Vivaldi Bank into Irae could potentially get rid of them. Either of them. And it would have to be this turn, otherwise Sayer Quan's obviously going to get the boost. I think with our full setup here, we will still be fine. I think we proceed as initially planned. Spawn you guys in, get the boosts, get the coins, and then convert. And we're looking for at least one more Firesworn Scribe. And then, probably from there, we'll start going to Fallen Knights, and because we had so many in round 1, we have no shortage of them in our graveyard to take over here. Okay, Caravan Vanguard is definitely not enough. They do have the Sayer Quan boost kicking in here, though. So we'll go with Helveed, and this is the big setup that we were looking for. Because with these 2 Scribes on the board, that means we can basically just non-stop generate Zealots, and we can convert these Zealots into additional Fallen Knights. And then we can continue to spawn in the remaining spots here. And that will definitely be enough. So with 2 cards to spare, we'll take the 2-0 win. Alright, so going up against Northern Realms here. And we'll go first. Okay, so we'd like a combination of coin generators, unit spawners, and engines that get boosted when we do that spawning. So we have a coin generator, we have a unit spawner, or 2, but we would really like more engines here. I mean, the Townsfolk technically is an option, which we could get boosted up in combination with the Firesworn Scribe that generates the coins. I suppose we can use Damnation with our leader ability to get a Fallen Knight. That's really what we're looking for here, more than anything. Let's swap out a Lonely Champion. Bone Talisman is a potential finisher, as is Desiree, but maybe line of credit for, okay, Fallen Knight directly from our hand. That works too. So, in which case, I think we are probably looking to go Fallen Knight first. So, let's start with that. And then it's probably Firesworn Scribe after that, followed by Townsfolk. Okay, Oniro into what? Ooh. Interesting. Adalia, are they a full-blown shield? Oh, shield deck for Ragnar? Maybe not. Maybe not. Looks like they're a Spellweaver deck, which could make matters a little difficult here, but we could go with Leader Ability, Damnation to create additional Fallen Knights, that's an option. Or we could go Firesworn Scribes next and prioritize the coin generation. I think we might want to get as many Fallen Knights down here as quickly as possible, because especially since we have Tiger's Eye, we aren't as much in need of the coins. And we'd like to get enough engines on the board that even if they get decent damage from these Sentry and Spellweavers, we want to build up our engines faster than they build up their engines to get to the point where they're out of removal range. Like, this is obviously going to go down. But if they can't get rid of either of these 5-point Fallen Knights, that would be really helpful. Not loving the looks of this, however. Okay, whew, thank goodness. At least it wasn't another set of Spellweavers. That is still going to give them enough damage to get rid of both this Fallen Knight and one of our 5-power Fallen Knights as well. Which I assume is what they're going to go for here. So we might have even wanted to get even more aggressive with Leader Ability charges there to boost up our Knights even further, to bring them further out of removal range. We technically can use Necromancy to get them back, which is a little bit tempting. I do kind of want to do that. Alternatively, again, Firesworn Scribe works. I think we might go Necromancy next, though. I think we do this. Because we have Hemmelfart in our hand, which means we do still have the ability to get these guys back from our graveyard again, if needed. We'd like to save that for round 3. And because these guys have Veil, they don't get the Doomed, so even after using Necromancy on them, we can still get them back again with Hemmelfart. Okay, Alzur's Thunder is sufficient to remove one of the Fallen Knights. So we're basically going back and forth, creating 2 Fallen Knights and getting 2 Fallen Knights destroyed every turn. But now we are going to have to probably mix things up a little bit and go for the Firesworn Scribes. We, again, could technically go Hemmelfart and create additional Fallen Knights that way, but we really want to make sure we still have Fallen Knights for round 2 or round 3, and this is our way to make sure that that happens. So let's go for the Firesworn Scribes here. Not as much in terms of direct point generation here, but it sets us up for some coin generation, which means we may consider either, if we're feeling a little bit greedy, go with Townsfolk, and then on our turn after that, Helveed, and just spamming this to get a bunch of Zealots on the board, or maybe straight into Helveed on our next turn, depending on how things are looking. Okay, it is another set of Spellweavers directly from their hand this time. So that's not a sight we like to see. But it does mean that we at least have one Firesworn Scribe here that remains on the board. They're going to have 4 charges in all likelihood. Well, no. They use this charge. They still have this charge. Minimum of 3. Likely more like 7 charges, assuming they have at least one way of giving them all additional charges on their next turn. So we might need to get aggressive here and go for Helveed. We can't technically sustain the coin cost here, but with our Tiger's Eye, it's close. Maybe we still go Townsfolk, though. Maybe we still go Townsfolk, and we try to distract them a little bit with these Townsfolk here and see if maybe they get caught up a little bit, not sure what they ought to go after. Rune Word, okay, that is the last thing we wanted to see. That is their best possible way of generating additional charges. They are, at least not getting additional Spellweavers, but these ones are about to rip through our units. So it'll be interesting to see what they prioritize here. Because we still have Tiger's Eye, we actually do have a way to get decent coin generation here. We would have really liked for this Firesworn Scribe to last long enough to combine with Helveed, but that looks like that's not going to be feasible. And they do have just barely enough damage to destroy this Townsfolk as well, which I assume is something they're interested in doing. These fan art students are starting to get big enough that they may become a factor fairly soon as well. Yeah, they're going to use them, in fact. They're going to go after the Fallen Knight rather than this Townsfolk. Yeah, because this Townsfolk is not a huge threat anymore now that they've gotten rid of the Scribe. We, of course, can get a little more coins from Tiger's Eye, and we'll get some from Hemmelfart as well. But the key thing here is basically the Knight plus Hemmelfart. And that is pretty much it. And then we'll finish with a combination of Bone Talisman and or Desiree. That's what it's looking like here. So let's go with Hemmelfart. Or rather, Helveed, I should say. Then we start spawning. Then we use you. And then we start spawning again. And so this is why, I mean, we would have played in the melee row if we still had Scribes, but that's why we really wanted to have Scribes as well, because it would have made this Townsfolk huge as well. And kept us either at a much higher number for coins, or potentially just outright sustained directly. So they'll go after a Helveed here. Oh, Sabrina is huge. She's so good in this event, but they actually only have room for one of her. So it's slightly less effective. It is still enough for them to get rid of Helveed with their remaining damage charges here. So this is the thing. They've been getting rid of all the units that we've been spawning in. They have not been able to get rid of this Fallen Knight, so it has become very big and has almost single-handedly made this round continue to stay competitive. The thing is, the problem is that at this point, we have a bunch of wide boosting cards with Desiree and Bone Talisman, which doesn't work very well when we have two units on the board. Really don't want to use Hemmelfart in this round. If we do, we are probably guaranteeing that we lose round 2 or round 3. There is a Sea Jackal that could be played. We don't really have the coins to make that meaningful. I mean, we could go with some leader ability charges, I suppose. Maybe it's Sea Jackal. Plus, let's go 1 leader ability charge. Just to give ourselves a little more coin generation and a little more boost. Because there may be a situation in which we want to make sure we have at least 1 leader ability charge remaining. So it forces them to play another turn here. But they likely will be able to pass us. And I think that is what we're going to have to accept. And what we're looking for now, after that big point slam that they just did, is we have at least made round 2/round 3 a little bit shorter, which is probably something that favors us over them. Would have been even more so the case if we still had Helveed, because that is one of our best ways to get a crazy tempo. But obviously that's no longer an option. Hemmelfart is still solid, but that's a little bit more of a longer-term plan. They are using all of their charges, all their orders, on those patience units, which it's a pretty clear sign that that is the last card that they are intending to play here. So I think we're not fooling anyone with a Bone Talisman or a Desiree here. And Hemmelfart is too little too late, and we very much want to save him. So we'll give them the round 1 win. It's a little painful, but it just didn't quite work out for us here, as they just barely managed to get rid of the engines that we spawned in. Okay, and we draw into Vivaldi Bank. Useful, for sure. Ulrich, who actually does not have a bronze Firesworn card to create a copy of right now, so that's a bit of an issue. And Igor could be a big spender for us to set up a powerful round 2 or round 3 combo. So as things currently stand, I think we're looking at probably dumping Bone Talisman because we don't have a very wide setup at the moment, and we are... I mean, this is a way to generate, spawn in more of those Flaming Rose, or Firesworn Zealots, but we still need something to go with Ulrich, or we just dump Ulrich because right now he is currently a brick. Another Bone Talisman. I mean, Bone Talisman is usable, whereas Ulrich really was not. So, if they dry pass, which is a possibility, we're probably looking at Vivaldi Bank into just a weak unit, or something near the top of our deck. If they try to push, I think that might just be a point slam. Because that's 16 points on one turn, which is quite solid. And I was already accepting the fact that we might have needed to go a card down in round 3. So I think... I'm not even sure we can match that tempo-wise, so I think we remain with our plan to go Vivaldi Bank. And we might be a little pickier with what we're going after here. Obviously, it's not going to be that. I guess it's Firesworn Scribe. It's going to have to be Firesworn Scribe. So that is a cleric, which means that Von Herst does work now. If they continue to push further, then he will be a very solid play for us. Von Herst and then Igor in the range row to create additional Firesworn Scribes, that would be what we'd go for. And then I guess we'd try to save Hemmelfart for round 3. Botchling will damage our highest unit, which right now is that Scribe. It will still survive, and Von Herst is going to be bigger. So this will become their next target. So I think that's still fine. And now we're going to start generating a whole lot of coins here. Which means that Igor becomes much more feasible. They're going to focus on the boosting, which... Ooh, Yennefer. Melee row for the damage. Very good. Very, very good. Just barely dealt enough damage to wipe out everything but Von Herst. There's, of course, a big, big blow to us, but it probably does mean that Hemmelfart's necessary now. He is a cleric, so that does make Von Herst work again. And unfortunately got rid of what was going to be a really solid combo. But we don't have an option. It has to be you. And that means you're going to spawn in units. So that would set up Fallen Knight for points. It would set up the Scribe for coins. Either one could work in tandem with Igor. We have enough Fallen Knights that we can still... Yeah, we have plenty of Fallen Knights. Okay, I think we do go Fallen Knight. I think we do go Fallen Knight here. So this will generate a lot of coins, or a lot of points here. Now it's the end for Conjurer. Just gonna hit those Fallen Knights. So now, it's looking like we'll want to go probably Hemmelfart, again, into at least one of these Firesworn Scribes. And then Igor, at that point, will generate a tiny bit of additional coins, but I think we might still need to use his Insanity to get additional units down here. I think that is what we need to do. And it's so close. So close to working. We could even convert you as well. I think we... yeah. Still gonna get another one of the Zealots down. The coins still don't quite add up for us to use Igor without the Insanity, so I guess we should have used the Insanity ability here. Oh, now we can't. Unless we use a leader ability charge here. Now we can create another copy of you. And now we can use a Desiree or a Bone Talisman. I think we're looking at Desiree, possibly even on Meditating Mage, to deny the resilience, because yes, Yennefer Conjurer is going to continue to pester us, but I think we're going to have to live with that and lean on the Fallen Knight plus Von Herst being enough to carry us for the remainder of this round, and this should be pretty solid for us. And that means that denying the resilience so that our round 3 is a little bit better will be key. Because we've taken what is actually a fairly large lead here. Oniro, though, is a little bit scary. But it's another set of Meditating Mages, so they'll get 1 unit with resilience here, since the ones they just played will not have the Zeal. That actually shouldn't be a humongous problem for us, because we will have 1 additional card. So sure, they'll have a 3-power unit on the board, but we'll have 1 more card than them. I think we'll take that exchange, because we shouldn't need to play anything else here. They'll flip their Botchling, or their Lubberkins, into Botchlings. That shouldn't be enough for them, though, even after that little bit of damage. Especially because, even if we pass right now, Lieutenant Von Herst is going to still spawn in another Firesworn Zealot and give us a bunch of boosts here. So we use a whole lot in round 2 there, but we did fend off the bleed. Now it all comes down to round 3. Okay, so it's a little scary that we have the Echo Desiree and Bone Talisman when we do not have much in the way of units right now. Certainly not with Line of Credit. I mean, Lonely Champion is a unit. It's not the unit we wanted to see by any means. What are we looking for at this rate? This Fallen Knight, more than anything, or Ulrich, really, would be ideal. So I think it's probably dumping the Bone Talisman, because Desiree is basically a better version of that. And at least the Lonely Champion does set these up a little bit. Okay, it is a Fallen Knight, which is certainly not bad. So I think it's, in that case, Fallen Knight, Eternal Fire Priest, Lonely Champion, Desiree. And what do they have left? Anna Strenger is not bad. Oh, and the leader ability charge to get the double boost from her. They still have another leader ability charge as well. They're going to try to get her inspired as quickly as possible as well. So that is maybe enough for them to keep pace with us here. And of course, the shield means that Desiree can't really do anything against them. So we're going to need to find a different target. Runestone could be anything. They do have Mage, but Banar Tutor is mostly about the deployability, so that was not a great option for them. Kinda like to Desiree on you when we have a nice 3-power unit lined up and ready to go, but not sure that makes a huge difference for us. Everyone is going to be Firesworn, so the death blow actually doesn't really matter. We just want to get as much damage as possible, so we can just go after this Meditating Mage, and it won't matter. So Lonely Champion next, because it means we're boosting more units from the Desiree, is still preferable. It does boost these guys, and a whole lot of this is coming down to their last card. They are going to get the boost from Anna Strenger, which, regardless of what this last card is, may be close to enough. Eric's Adept does not have any setup here, though. So it all comes down to Anna Strenger, and then our finisher with Desiree. It's 3 damage, it boosts all these guys, and the Intimidate will trigger on these Fallen Knights. So will this be sufficient? It's going to be really close. And we tie! Oh my goodness. So there's a look at a Syndicate deck for the new +1 seasonal event. If you liked the video, make sure to hit the like and subscribe button, and leave a comment down below to let me know which other cards, archetypes, and factions you'd like us to experiment with next. Thank you all for watching, and I'll catch you next time.